T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave.
4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
This is STS-51L. 7 astronauts on a mission watched by millions of Americans, from living rooms to classrooms. This is more than a launch. This is a story of decisions made under pressure.
Roger, roll, Challenger.
Of warnings ignored, of voices silenced. "5 a.m. Inside crew quarters at Kennedy Space Center's Operations and Checkout Building, the astronauts rest. It's the early hours of January 28, 1986. Outside, a rare Florida cold snap tightens its grip. Temperatures hover in the lower 30s. Ice forms on the launch tower and nearby equipment. Unusual conditions for a shuttle launch. The launch pad, 39B, stands silent. Frost clings to the shuttle's surface. The O-rings rubber seals in the solid rocket boosters are stiff from the cold. A critical warning yet to be fully understood. All is still. Countdown continues. 7 a.m. The presence of ice on the launch pad triggers early morning inspections. Engineers examine the shuttle's exterior, concerned about frozen components, but ultimately clear the mission to proceed. Meanwhile, inside the crew quarters, the astronauts begin their morning routines. Wake-up calls, breakfast, medical checks. Flight suits are readied and zipped up. There's anticipation in the air, excitement, focus. No sign that anything is off script. 8 a.m. The crew suits up. Commander Dick Scobie leads the team. Pilot Michael J. Smith, Mission Specialist Judith Resnick, Allison Onizuka, and Ronald McNair. Payload Specialist Gregory Jarvis, and Christa McAuliffe, the first civilian selected to fly in space, a teacher from New Hampshire.
When you first applied for this, did you think you had even a prayer?
I really didn't. I was almost doing it kind of like when you play the lottery. If you don't play it, you don't win.
Sure.
And when I filled out that application, that's really how I felt. I figured there'd be at least 50,000 people across the country who would be slipping that into the mailbox around the same time.
What about when you made it down to the last 10? Did you think then, maybe?
Well, then the possibility became very real, and I really started to think what the impact would be on my teaching career and on my family. Yeah. But it was still really exciting.
Inside Challenger, 7 astronauts prepare for their mission, each bringing unique skills, experiences, and personal stories as they readied themselves for another step in space exploration. Michael J. Smith, the pilot, a Navy captain and graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. This was his first space flight. Francis R. Scobie, mission commander, a decorated Air Force test pilot with more than 6,500 flight hours. This would be his second time in space. Ronald McNair, mission specialist, a physicist with a PhD from MIT, also an accomplished saxophonist and martial artist. In 1984, he became the second African American in space. Ellison Onizuka, mission specialist. An aerospace engineer and Air Force officer, the first Asian American astronaut. He had previously flown on Space Shuttle Discovery. Judith Resnick, mission specialist. A biomedical engineer with a doctorate in electrical engineering, she was the second American woman in space and a classically trained pianist. Gregory Jarvis, payload specialist. An engineer from Hughes Aircraft, he was responsible for conducting fluid dynamics experiments in microgravity. This was his first mission. And Christy McAuliffe, payload specialist. A high school social studies teacher from Concord, New Hampshire. Chosen from more than 11,000 applicants, she was selected to be the first civilian to fly in space as part of NASA's Teacher in Space program. Across the United States, schools are tuning in to watch the broadcast. For the first time, a private citizen, a teacher, will fly in space. The program aimed to boost public interest in the space program and education. McAuliffe planned to teach 2 live lessons from orbit. She had written her own lesson plans and prepared to speak to students around the world. Her inclusion brought unprecedented public attention. In the weeks leading up to launch, McAuliffe gave interviews, spoke to students, and participated in press conferences. She became a national figure, appearing on talk shows, news programs, and magazine covers. Across the country, students and teachers prepared to watch her launch live. Many schools arranged assemblies. TVs were rolled into classrooms. Children wrote letters and drew pictures of the shuttle. This mission was designed to be shared to connect the space program to the public, especially children. This is STS-51L, the 25th mission of NASA's Space Shuttle program. Challenger has flown 9 times before. Its track record includes a variety of missions, including the first American spacewalk from a shuttle and flights involving international and civilian payloads. The shuttle program began after the Apollo era. In the 1970s, NASA shifted its focus from single-use rockets to reusable spacecraft. The space shuttle was intended to reduce costs and increase access to space through frequent, flexible missions. Unlike earlier vehicles, the shuttle could be launched repeatedly, land on a runway, and carry diverse cargo, from satellites to laboratories.
Historians 5 centuries from now will mark this century, this place, and they will further note that from the void, life, man, it took eons to reach this point.
Its design was a combination of winged orbiter, external fuel tank, and 2 solid rocket boosters. By 1986, 4 orbiters were in service: Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, and Atlantis. NASA aimed to make spaceflight routine, with multiple launches per year. The stated goals of the program included scientific research, commercial satellite deployment, international cooperation, and public education.
Between the beginning and the conclusion, they came to feel, to dimly perceive what it was all about, to come to a perspective on the meaning of it all. Poet Archibald MacLeish has said it better than most. to see the Earth as it truly is, small and blue and beautiful, in that eternal silence where it floats, is to see ourselves as riders on the Earth together, brothers who know now they are truly brothers.
This flight was previously scheduled for January 22nd, but the mission was postponed due to delays with previous shuttle flights. Technical issues, including a hatch bolt problem, caused additional delays. Weather also played a role, both at the launch site and emergency landing zones. Each postponement added pressure. NASA was managing a tight schedule and facing scrutiny from Congress and the public. The shuttle program had promised frequent, reliable flights. Delays were costly. By the time the launch was rescheduled for January 28th, there was a strong desire to proceed. That desire collided with a drop in temperature. Inside classrooms around the country, students waited. Many had never seen a space launch before. This was a rare moment. A direct connection between everyday life and human spaceflight. 8 a.m. They gather for final briefings. Then, by NASA transport, they are driven to the launch pad. (8:30 a.m.) The astronauts ascend the gantry and enter the White Room. Each is assisted into their seat aboard Challenger. Final communications checks are completed. The atmosphere is calm, focused. No issues are reported from inside the spacecraft. 11 a.m. Inside the orbiter, the crew reviews checklists. Systems remain nominal. No new delays are introduced. From the cockpit, they can see sunlight reflecting off the tower's structure. STS-51L was planned as a high-profile mission. In addition to technical objectives, it was meant to showcase the shuttle's versatility and reaffirm public support. On the morning of January 28th, the air was colder than anyone had ever seen for a shuttle launch. Temperatures dropped to a record low. Behind the scenes, some engineers voiced concerns about how the cold might affect critical components. Their warnings were noted, examined. But the decision was made to move forward.
Maybe just a little bit of fright, too?
Not yet. Maybe when I'm strapped in and those rockets are going off underneath me, there will be, but space flight today really seems safe.
A crowd of some 500 spectators, including 18 visiting school children from McAuliffe's hometown of Concord, New Hampshire, waited anxiously and then counted down. The liftoff appeared flawless. The spectators, including Krista McAuliffe's parents, Grace and Edward Corrigan, watched proudly through tears of joy.
Control program. Roger, roll, Challenger.
Good roll program confirmed. Challenger now heading down range. Engines beginning throttling down now at 94%. Normal throttles for most of the flight, 104%. We'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles. Controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
Fido trajectory.
Go ahead.
Flight GC, we've had negative contact, lost downlink. Okay, all operators, watch your data carefully.
Flight Fido until we get stuff back. He's on his cue card for abort modes. Flight Fido.
Go ahead.
RSO reports vehicle exploded.
Copy. Fido, can we get any reports from recovery forces?
Stand by.
Fido flight.
Go ahead.
Did the RSOs have an impact point?
Stand by.
Okay, everybody, stay off the telephones. Make sure you maintain all your data. Start pulling it together. Fido flight.
Go ahead, sir.
Are the LSOs on the loop?
We can get them.
Get them up on this loop, please.
Yes, sir, it's the LSO.
Okay, are there any forces headed out that way?
Yes, sir. DOD LSO reports that all SAR forces have been scrambled.
For the spectators and Krista McAuliffe's parents, joy turns to confusion, worry, and a realization of tragedy. The $1.2 billion spaceship, its 7 crew members, and their satellite payload disappear.
I thought the flight was going fine. And then I heard them say major malfunction. And then the person beside me said it's exploded. And it was, I couldn't speak.
Myself and all of the staff here for at least 25 minutes or so after the accident happened didn't want to believe the worst, and we're hoping that somebody would say, it's all right, it's okay. You know, they made it back.
Oh, she's so nice. She's just a real caring, kind person. She's like a, well, she's kind of like a big sister to me, kind of. She's just really special. It's hard for me to talk, but she was really special to me. Something like this just wasn't expected, and it's just really hard.
It's very hard to express how we feel about her, especially Steve and the children. And God, it's just awfully hard. The pain is just too much. And if I'm feeling bad and I'm trying to compose myself, I can imagine how they feel. It's just from pride and joy and ecstasy to, excuse me, pain and agony. It's just awfully hard.
At 5 p.m., President Ronald Reagan addressed the nation. His voice steady but somber. He honored the crew's courage and sacrifice. He spoke directly to the families and to all Americans grieving the loss.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd planned to speak to you tonight to report on the State of the Union. But the events of earlier today have led me to change those plans. Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country. This is truly a national loss. 19 years ago, almost to the day, we lost 3 astronauts in a terrible accident on the ground. But we've never lost an astronaut in flight. We've never had a tragedy like this. And perhaps we've forgotten the courage it took for the crew of the shuttle. But they, the Challenger 7, were aware of the dangers, overcame them, and did their jobs brilliantly. We mourn 7 heroes: Michael Smith, Dick Scobie, Judith Resnick, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Gregory Jarvis, and Krista McCall. We mourn their loss as a nation together. The families of the 7, we cannot bear, as you do, the full impact of this tragedy. But we feel the loss, and we're thinking about you so very much. Your loved ones were daring and brave, and they had that special grace, that special spirit that says, give me a challenge, and I'll meet it with joy. They had a hunger to explore the universe and discover its truths. They wished to serve, and they did. They served all of us. And I want to say something to the school children of America who were watching the live coverage of the shuttle's takeoff. I know it's hard to understand, but painful things like this happen. It's all part of the process of exploration and discovery. It's all part of taking a chance and expanding man's horizons. The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave. The Challenger crew was pulling us into the future, and we'll continue to follow.
President Reagan's words became a lasting tribute to a nation broken by loss, yet bound together by memory and resolve. The day after the disaster, emergency response teams are mobilized. Recovery operations begin in the Atlantic Ocean, where debris and possible crew escape systems are located.
Firemen rode motorcycles. The public joined in as well. And soon they began to find clues, scattered pieces of wreckage, presumed at this stage to be from the Shuttle Challenger. They were carefully removed from the beach, labeled, and taken away to a local Air Force base where their examination will begin. Almost none of the pieces could be directly identified as coming from the downed shuttle. Police patrolled the beaches, picking up pieces from passers-by. Who gave you that? One of the people looking?
Yeah, one of the people just walking down the street.
Just in case it might be a piece?
Yeah, just in case.
And many more small pieces were found, like this apparent tile.
A massive search and recovery operation began across the Atlantic Ocean. The area of interest, just off the coast of central Florida, spanned hundreds of square miles. The sky still held curling trails of smoke, where the U.S. Coast Guard began mobilizing helicopters and ships to locate falling wreckage. More than 16 naval vessels, including the USS Preserver and USS Grapple, joined the effort. They were supported by aircraft, sonar-equipped submersibles, Navy divers, and teams from NASA and the Air Force. The water was cold, choppy, and deep, over 1,200 feet in some places. The operation became one of the largest peacetime recovery efforts ever taken by the U.S. military. For weeks, divers searched underwater for fragments of Challenger, its wings, engines, payload bay doors, thermal tiles, and cockpit structure. Surface ships trawled for floating debris, while aircraft scanned vast stretches of ocean from above. Within days, large pieces of the shuttle's fuselage were located on the ocean floor.
We've just been through a terrible tragedy. But where does the space program go now?
Well, it is a terrible tragedy, I think, certainly for the astronauts and their families that were involved, but I think for the country, because I think we had so much invested emotionally in this particular shot with a teacher on board and so forth. But in terms of where we go from now in the space program, I think this disaster is of a magnitude that it is going to cause us, and those of us in the Congress with work duties in this area, to have to go through a very fundamental reassessment of how we adjust the program in certain ways to deal with this terrible act of God, if you will, that's occurred here.
This was the 56th mission, 24 shuttle mission without a failure, even though we're dealing with new complexities and speed and powers that mankind has never dealt with before. That's an amazing success story because they've made it so safe, or had such a stress on safety all the way through. And that's the reason we've had this kind of success. So is the commitment there? Yes. I think people have become accustomed to this. They feel it's part of being an American these days is to have an ongoing program like this, doing basic research, and I think the commitment's even more than it was back in the 70s. I didn't want to see us get to the point where the American public thought that space travel was now so ho-hum, and had gotten to the point where we're just, if people want to go up into space, well, we'll find a seat for them there, and that's the purpose of having the program. The reason we have a space program is for the basic fundamental research, and I have felt we should concentrate on that and make sure that we get that basic research. That's the reason Americans support this program. It's not just to oh gee whiz and watch astronauts go up into space, even though that's exciting, and we can all sort of Walter Mitty ourselves into the cockpit and say, gee, what would I have done if I had been on that mission, you know? Well, that's exciting too. But I think we have long-term support for this program as we see the solid research return coming back from the program. And that's what I hope to concentrate on.
Just a few days after the immediate search was underway, President Reagan would announce the formation of the Rogers Commission, a panel tasked with investigating the disaster.
It's time now to assemble a group of distinguished Americans to take a hard look at the accident, to make a calm and deliberate assessment of the facts, and ways to avoid repetition. So I am today announcing the formation of a presidential commission on the Space Shuttle Challenger's accident. The commission will review the circumstances surrounding the accident, determine the probable cause or causes, and develop recommendations for corrective action. And this commission will report back to me within 120 days. William P. Rogers, former Secretary of State and former Attorney General, will serve as chairman of the commission, and Neil Armstrong, former astronaut, will serve as its vice chairman.
One of the most painful discoveries came in early March 1986, when divers found remnants of the crew compartment. The structure had remained largely intact after separation and was located under 100 feet of water. Recovery teams also found personal items, helmets, notebooks, and parts of the cabin interior, bringing the tragedy into even sharper focus. NASA officials were cautious and respectful during the handling of these components. The remains of the crew, recovered from the crew cabin area, were identified and returned to their families with solemn care.
I talked to the cousin of Krista McAuliffe.
I was filming the whole thing. I think I have it all on the film, but we knew at a certain point. In fact, I just started to shake and I couldn't hold the camera any longer. We knew there was something wrong. I think anyone standing there knew something was wrong.
By the end of the recovery phase, over 118 tons of material had been retrieved, roughly 30% of the orbiter, including large parts of both solid rocket boosters and the external tank. Some debris was found more than 50 miles from the launch site, scattered by wind and ocean currents. All recovered pieces were transported to Hangar AF at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, where they were cataloged, photographed, and studied. The Rogers Commission relied heavily on this wreckage, particularly parts of the right solid rocket booster. They eventually discovered physical signs of erosion and soot around one of the joints. Clear indications that the O-ring seals had failed, allowing hot gases to breach the casing and ignite the catastrophic chain reaction. During the televised hearings, Nobel physicist Richard Feynman demonstrated the O-ring problem in simple terms.
Well, I took this stuff that I got out of your seal, and I put it in ice water. And I discovered that when you put some pressure on it for a while and then undo it, it doesn't stretch back, it stays the same dimension. In other words, for a few seconds at least, and more seconds than that, there's no resilience in this particular material when it's at a temperature of 32 degrees. I believe that has some significance for our problem.
Feynman's demonstration was a clear and powerful illustration of how the cold temperatures on launch day compromised the shuttle's safety systems. NASA's organizational culture prioritized schedule and public relations over safety concerns raised by engineers. Communication failures and decision-making flaws allowed the launch to proceed despite serious warnings. The tragedy revealed a stark contrast between the technical brilliance of NASA's engineers and the bureaucratic failures within management. It exposed the dangers of ignoring expert advice and placing external pressures above operational safety. The Challenger disaster became a case study in the consequences of flawed judgment and the need for transparency, accountability, and the respect for engineering expertise in space exploration.
For those who knew you well and loved you, the pain will be deep and enduring. A nation, too, will long feel the loss of her 7 sons and daughters, her 7 good friends. We can find consolation only in faith, for we know in our hearts that you who flew so high and so proud now make your home beyond the stars. Man will continue his conquest of space, to reach out for new goals and ever greater achievements. That is the way we shall commemorate our 7 Challenger heroes.
The nation entered a period of mourning unlike any before in space exploration. Candlelight vigils were held across communities. Schools and public spaces became places for tribute and reflection. Memorials sprang up nationwide.
Dick, Mike, Judy, Elle, Ron, Greg, and Krista, your families and your country mourn your passing. We bid you goodbye. We will never forget you.
Television and newspapers showed images of grief and unity. Friends, neighbors, and strangers shared their sorrow. The shuttle's final moments were replayed repeatedly. The countdown, liftoff, the crew's hopeful faces on screen. Then, the explosion. A sudden, jarring end. Broadcasts cut to black. Voices fell silent. The world held its breath. 73 seconds. That's all it took. That short span of time marked a heartbreaking end to a mission filled with promise. Across the country, families, students, and viewers watched in shock. Classrooms that had been filled with hope turned to mourning. Many students had been following the mission closely, eager to see Krista McAuliffe, the first civilian and teacher in space, make history. In 2015, NASA announced that some of the debris would be publicly displayed for the first time. A segment of the fuselage and a window frame from Challenger were included in a permanent exhibit at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, titled Forever Remembered. The exhibit also honors Columbia, the other shuttle lost during flight, along with the full crews of both missions.
As we do each year, we pause to keep their memory alive and recall the hard lessons of the past as we prepare for the future. We are still deeply impacted by their loss. Although this year marks 53 years since Apollo 1, 34 years since the Space Shuttle Challenger, and 17 years since the Space Shuttle Columbia tragedies, their crews are remembered forever.
Today, the Challenger Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery stands as a silent tribute to the 7 astronauts who lost their lives on STS-51L. Engraved in stone are the names of Dick Scobie, Michael Smith, Judith Resnick, Ellison Onizuka, Ronald McNair, Gregory Jarvis, and Krista McAuliffe. Each of their families, through pain and memory, has kept their legacies alive, sharing stories of their loved ones, their aspirations, and the hope they represented. Annual remembrance ceremonies are held by NASA and watched by thousands across the world. Yet, perhaps the most enduring legacy lies not just in stone or ceremony, but in policy, design, and vigilance. Challenger's loss redefined how NASA approaches risk. It reshaped the shuttle program, led to the redesign of solid rocket boosters, and established a more transparent safety culture where dissenting voices are encouraged, not silenced. Schools were named after the astronauts, including the Krista McAuliffe Middle School and Gregory Jarvis Middle School. Communities created memorials and scholarship programs to honor their memory. The legacy of Challenger became a symbol of courage and a reminder of the high cost of exploration. As the nation mourned, NASA paused all shuttle flights for nearly 3 years to improve safety. As we look toward the future, the lessons learned from the Challenger remain vital. They serve as a reminder that progress requires both ambition and humility, that exploration demands responsibility, and that the spirit of discovery is built on trust and respect. They dared to teach. They dared to explore. And in doing so, they changed the future. Their dream didn't end in tragedy. It became a legacy. The Challenger Memorial stands as a quiet testament to courage and sacrifice. It invites each generation to remember, reflect, and continue the journey beyond the stars.
We've grown used to wonders in this century. It's hard to dazzle us. But for 25 years, the United States space program has been doing just that. We've grown used to the idea of space, and perhaps we forget that we've only just begun. We're still pioneers. They, the members of the Challenger crew, were pioneers. I've always had great faith in and respect for our space program, and what happened today does nothing to diminish it. We don't hide our space program. We don't keep secrets and cover things up. We do it all up front and in public. That's the way freedom is, and we wouldn't change it for a minute. We'll continue our quest in space. There will be more shuttle flights and more shuttle crews, and yes, more volunteers, more civilians, more teachers in space. Nothing ends here. Our hopes and our journeys continue. I want to add that I wish I could talk to every man and woman who works for NASA or who worked on this mission and tell them your dedication and professionalism have moved and impressed us for decades, and we know of your anguish. We share it. The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger honored us for the manner in which they lived their lives. We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye and slipped the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God.